Hello guys, today I'm going to be showing you guys a 1980s era Galaxy fan. Let's take a look at the informations. This is a Type 12-1 style K1CR rated at 0.43 amps, and it says assembled in Mexico. I don't know how this made its way into the US, but it did. And ultimately, it's now with me. This is a kind of unusual variant you see with these 80s Galaxy fans. When you see these amber blades, you typically think of the more, kind of having a hard time explaining it, but the more like you would think more of that blade there, the smaller blade, that blade shape on the home's too cool. But this, you have the more rounded blade shape, which is kind of unusual that you see with these fans. I got this from Face Hacker Book. Steal your data, provide zero customer service. Lying, deceptive, stupid garbage book platform, marketplace thing. And I got this for, I think, there was a lot of 3 that I got for $35. It was a listing where you pay, I think, $15 per fan, and you get all 3 of them for $35. So, yeah. But thankfully, I was able to buy this, and the guy that was selling it, he worked. He wasn't unethical or anything like that, but he definitely wasn't willing to hold stuff, which is kind of usual for that platform. And I tried to not use that website as much anyway because there's unethical people on there. And so it was with eBay, and Amazon's not quite so bad, but there's some unethical people on Amazon as well. So, yeah, this thing, unfortunately, is not in very good condition anymore. When you look at the back motor housing, there's some deteriorated plastic. And look at that. That's pretty bad. There's a lot of scratching all around it. And the base is not any better. There's a lot of deterioration taking place. This was probably used in a very sunny window to get this condition. These Galaxy fans are really quite tough. So I'm very surprised it's in that condition, because normally when you see these Galaxy fans, they're not like that. They're usually very tough. So I don't know what's with this one. Maybe they use a different plastic that does that. Maybe this was really used in really bad environment to get like this. I don't know, but thankfully it ultimately survived, and it's still holding up 40 years later. So yeah. And for those who are wanting to see what the plug looks like, here it is. This is a typical non-polarized plug, which I would say this thing is probably from sometime in the earlier part of production. The handle is not in the plastic itself. There probably is on the guard, but it may have broken off at some point. I don't know. This thing has been through a lot over the years, so I would not be surprised if there was a handle and it just broke off that was on the guard. I don't know what happened to it. Maybe there was no handle to begin with. That I also don't know. This, I think, was probably from around 1984 or 85. Judging by the way that the handle's not on the plastic itself. But I really don't know. There's not that coat on the bottom. It probably faded off at one point, and now I don't know what the date code of this, which is kind of annoying because I really want to know how old this thing really is. So I'm going to plug this into the master force meter, and we'll start off on low. This thing is pushing a lot of air for low, and it's very quiet. Let's take an anemometer test on this. We'll go with 669. That's a lot of air, and for that much air, ooh, not good. This is drawing only 25 watts and 0.22 amps, which is basically nothing for the amount of air this is moving. Now, mind you, the Lakewood 1200A, which is the Lakewood equivalent of this thing, does slightly less air and draws 3 times the power and probably 3 times or more of the noise. Well, I'll take that back. The Lakewood low speed is pretty quiet as well, so I was kind of exaggerating there. It's just on high speed that the Lakewood gets very loud. Here's medium. It is shaking a little bit, but not to the point where it's worth trying to balance it. And trying to balance this blade because it's so delicate, it's probably just best to leave it alone. Because as I said, these blades are very delicate. If you try to balance it, it will probably shatter. And these blades are not common. These are actually pretty rare. So, I mean, if the balance is really, really, really bad, then you could mess with it. But if it's tolerable, like what this shaking is, it's just best left alone. As long as it doesn't shake uncontrollably, it's really just best left alone. We'll go with 807, medium. And this thing is drawing 32 watts and 0.26 amps. And now high. And it gets a little bit louder on high, but definitely not as loud as the Lakewood 1200As are. Let's do this test as well. Go with about go with 1024. That's about as much as like the Lakewoods do. And for all that air being pushed out, it's only drawing 39 watts and 0.33 amps. These use like no power for the amount of air these are moving. And that's part of the reason why I really like these so much. See how the oscillation does. That's working perfectly. Yeah, this thing is in good working order. It's not in the best of condition, but it still works perfectly 40 years later. And even though the plastic's kind of deteriorated, it's ultimately not as brittle as the Lakewood 1200As are. The Lakewood 1200As use a cheap chintzy plastic guard, and they break once it falls off the table. These, like, if they fall off the table, I've had one of these fall off the table. When these fall off the table, these are still intact. When you knock over a Lakewood, you just look at it and it breaks. So yeah, these are super durable, super quiet, super powerful, super economical to run, and they still run 30, 40, 50 years later. And they still work. And I'll turn it off so you guys can see the spin down time. Spin down time is actually pretty good on this. And the blades are could probably use a cleaning. They definitely got some dust on them. And another thing I'm going to do to this is I'm going to 3D print some new plastic guards, because this is using wire ties, and while that's an okay fix to this problem, it's kind of ghetto looking. So to make it more professional, I'm just going to 3D print some new plastic guards. Or not plastic guards, but the clips is what I'm talking about. I'll 3D print 5 to go around the whole fan so that it looks good as new. Alright, well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thank you guys for watching. Bye.